grabbed his lunchbox. He crawled the ladder, went all the way to the top, got the cab, checked out all the charts and everything, see what he could do, what he couldn't do. Swung around there, picked up a unit of plywood, and he said that thing just kind of bowed like this. He swung around, he set it where they wanted it, grabbed his lunchbox, he went down the ladder.
I'm going to find a truck crane somewhere.
Yeah, he's back on the ground. He said, the heck with that. The first construction I started out in was in 1970. Economy went bad, and the guy I was working for, he moved out of state, followed the work.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to work for Abby's for about 5 years, and then I went back into construction.
Okay. For Mathis or for somebody else?
No, for a different guy. He was doing building and remodel of Abby's.
Oh, I see.
That's how I met him. He
I see.
Remodeled the Stevens store.
Yeah, that was the original Abbey's flagship
Yep.
station right there.
Yeah, the original Abby's there. And that's when we first kicked out the front. The first time it was kicked out. It's been kicked out another time since then. But
So that was 75 or 76.
that would have been, yeah.
That's when I graduated from high school, so you were just a little ahead of me.
Abby's is the hometown pizza place for those of you who aren't locals. It's sort of the hometown, or at least regional.
Yeah, it started out just hometown. Abbey himself started that store, and then they scaled up and went
Him
regional.
and his partners.
Okay.
Bob Harrell, Robert Harrell.
Okay. You remember that little other pizza joint right in the place,
The
right
place?
in front of him? Yeah,
Yep.
my dad used to take us there when we were little, and then all of a sudden it wasn't there anymore, and Abby's had it. You know?
Yeah.
So at what point did you kind of get behind the seat of a crane then and kind of convert or transition to operating that, or was it a long gradual thing?
No, it actually was about 1980 was the first time I got in a seat, an old RT.
But you had worked in the woods, so let me jump in, because you and I had talked about working in the woods a little bit.
Yeah, I did after I got out of high school before I went in the Navy.
So about 1980, you got into the seat of an old RT. An RT is a type of crane.
Yeah, it's a rough terrain crane.
I see.
Not for driving on the road. They usually have to put them on low boys and haul them job site to job site.
Huh.
Was it a big one?
No, it was a little.
I see.
I think it was a 15-ton or something. You know, we was doing a job in Turlock, California.
Turlock?
Uh-huh.
That's where my mom was born.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We did a flood control, poured a bunch of different structures and stuff for flood control out in the by the airport, out by Belico, California. And anyway, so we had some bridge beams and stuff for pouring bridges that we put in for over the canals. And so I'd use it to move them around or load them and unload them. Yeah.
So it was just a deal where the work had to be done and you were there and they knew you were responsible and they said, can you run this, get in the seat, or how'd that go?
Pretty much go get in the seat of that thing and unload all those beams off onto the ground. And
Yeah.
And the more you did it, the more you became the best at it on the job site generally, or the go-to guy sort of?
Well, it kind of took a while. I started with Jack in '83.
Jack Mathis.
And he had cranes, but he had a crew that worked crane business part, and I was just a carpenter, and that was in '83. Yeah, '83, and in 1990, he bought that boom truck that we have, and I started running it a little bit, and off and on, and the guy that was running the crane business, he retired in '96, so then I took over full time in '96.
Is it the same crane that you used on our job, the one that you started on in 1990?
The boom truck?
Okay.
Yep.
But that's the little crane. They have
That's
a
the
big
little one.
crane too. So you're going to describe that to us, and we'll probably get some B-roll, a picture of that maybe to put up, because it's how big is it? That's 100
It's
ton?
120 ton.
120 ton.
Yeah.
Maybe just give us an idea, if you had to classify, cranes into classes. Sounds like boom truck is one class, and a rough terrain or an RT. What are the others? What are the other general categories?
You have crawler cranes, which are on tracks, and usually they have a lattice boom configuration.
Huh. Is that for like the most rough terrain, or for mud, or what? Why would you
No,
need tracks?
no, they use those a lot for like bridge and big buildings.
Oh.
They'll put them on a job
Oh,
site.
I'm sorry. Okay, tracks.
Yeah, cat tracks.
Cat tracks, only flat, no grousers. You see them on bridge jobs, big
Yeah.
wide pads on the tracks, big houses down on the ground.
Yeah, they have to put down mats, big timber mats. They put down and level them up because they have no outriggers. Their tracks are
They're
their
just sitting on
outriggers.
the tracks.
Yeah, and so they put big old mats down for them to walk on.
Wow.
And level them out, and that's what they use for those.
Okay.
Unless they got flat ground or something, and it's good ground. But usually they use mats anyway. That's more stable. And then you have the like our 120 is a truck-mounted crane, and then they also have a all-terrain, which is like the truck mount, but the tires, most of them steer.
Oh, okay.
Articulate all the way around.
They get in a little bit rougher country than the one like I have.
And what's this bigger one? You know, we know the one that was in our video.
The one that you brought is, what's that, a 15-ton?
17-ton boom truck.
17-ton boom truck. So the other crane is a 120-ton crane. It would pick up that boom truck that he operated and
Yeah.
set it up there quite a ways and out there quite a ways. It's a serious crane with a telescoping boom.
Yeah, it has 137 feet of main stick,
Yeah, so think of that.
Wow.
which is actually for that size of crane nowadays is pretty short.
Oh, is it really?
Oh yeah, they go some of the cranes go up to 197 feet on a 120.
Wow.
And that's mounted on a regular sort of semi-truck frame body,
No, it's a they call it a truck mount, but it is basically a truck, but it's a big one. It's custom made by the crane manufacturer.
Like
Wow.
8 axles? How many axles are under that thing?
I've got 5 axles under the crane and 2 tags.
Yeah. See, so there's 7 axles
7
under
axles
this thing.
total.
incredible.
Big, heavy, wide rubber.
Yeah.
Big rubber.
To haul that there, drive it down the road, it has to have pretty good sized tires because the tire width makes up how much weight you can haul. And see, it total going down the highway, it weighs 130,000 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
It's heavy.
Yeah.
Big. Yeah.
Are there trucks bigger than that going down
Oh,
the
yeah.
road ever?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
But this is big, and
That's
it looks
amazing.
big, and that boom
Yeah.
sits out there by the cab and
Yeah.
sticking out in front, ready to batter down anything you run into. And
Yeah, most of the like the 500s and 650 tons, they usually the whole house comes off, boom and house and everything comes off. And then they just drive the carrier down the road and put it back on.
then they
when
bring a
get to
crane to put the crane together.
it.
Or
No,
will they put
most of
themselves
them,
together?
most of them they're designed to pick themselves up and they drive the truck underneath it and set it back.
Is
down.
that right?
Yeah, not all of them, but most of them.
Yeah, how about that?
So boom truck is the proper description for the smaller one, and
Yes.
is that how people should refer to it as opposed to a crane, or is it kind of just
Either way.
Either way,
It's,
okay.
Yeah, it's still a crane. It's just
Yeah.
classified as a boom truck.
got it?
Yeah.
Which one do you prefer operating?
Really doesn't matter. They're both about the same.
Do you have little butterflies in your stomach anymore when you're heading to a job, or is it just another day at the office?
No, just another day.
Just another day.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yep. That's just
Just what you do.
what I do.
What about in terms of prep? Do you always? I know you came and scoped out our job to decide which truck to bring.
Mm-hmm.
Do you always kind of scope the job out first, or you just kind of at this point know we'll figure it out one way or another? Like I said, another day at the office, or is there a lot of prep going on before you get there from your end?
Not always. Some jobs you have to go look at before you go to them to see which one you're going to need. Like if you're doing air conditioning, heating systems, or hot tubs or swim spas, they're basically going to be the boom truck.
Oh.
I mean, there is some of the units that we have to set with the big crane because of the reach. You can't reach
way
it
out
with-
there.
Yeah, it's
Right.
out there. But most of them are just the boom truck.
Yeah.
But
So how often with the big one do you have to get out the chart and look and say, okay, and the weight and where I'm going to be stretched out to? How often in that big one do you get close enough that you have to be paying close attention to the weight and the distance and the angle? Or with that crane in this market, is it almost always in the safety zone?
well, if you're right on the edge, I mean, you're on the edge. So
Right.
you don't have a lot of leeway. I mean, you get your measurement from center of the pin on the crane to the center of the pick on the whatever you're lifting. And then you look at your chart, what they call a radius, what that is, and see what you can lift at that point. Sometimes you get right out there where you're picking all it'll pick on at, say, 70 feet. Like the big crane at 70 feet, I think it's good for 20,000 pounds. You still can get them to tip, and you don't want to do that.
Don't want to do that.
So you want to pretty much stay within the chart, because if you get outside the chart, then you don't know if you're going, something's going to.
Sure. And so you're checking that. Lots of times you have reason to look at that chart and make sure you're squarely in the safety margin, or at least enough in it to be comfortable.
If it's heavy stuff,
How do you know with confidence what something weighs? I mean, like our walls, it's a bunch of lumber and all sorts of things, and I know that might have been light enough that it didn't matter, but do you have like some kind of benchmark things that this general thing is always around here, or how do you develop that sense?
Well, you just kind of, a lot of it you're guessing about what it weighs, because, I mean, you can, if you get right down to it, you could do a lot of calculating.
I think I gave you my best guess on the way to that big wall.
Yeah. And it's, you can take the lumber and it weighs so much a square foot.
So, absolutely. Add it up, and that's what we did.
Right. And steel's about the same way, but a lot of times when you're lifting some old thing out of a mill or something that you don't know what the heck is on it, and what else is all the stuff that's in it from years, So.
Whoops, an anchor bolt didn't get cut off.
Yeah.
All right, now here's something I've wondered about a lot, because I've fiddled around with trees a lot, logging and sawmill, and I've climbed. And I've seen, I think, you around here with your crane, with your 120 tons stretched up in the air behind a building, choked to the top of a tree that a tree service has taken out.
Yeah.
Grabbing a tree on its feet and taking out some part of it, maybe guts, feathers, and all, right out, or in pieces.
A lot of times it's in pieces.
Yeah.
Sometimes, depending on the size of the tree, the biggest problem with trying to take it all in one chunk, you're up so far.
Yeah, you can't lift high enough to clear the ground.
Well, the tree gets really small.
Yeah, you pinch it off. Yeah,
you're picking more weight than it can actually.
Yeah, that's true.
Take so.
Yeah, because setting chokers, we pinched off the tops plenty of logs. Right, when it comes tight and a hard pull, it just pinches off.
Right, so you gotta kind of calculate in how much that chunk that you're hooking onto will actually pick, and then usually the tree guys are pretty good with that.
Yeah.
And they figure out about how much they want to go, and then they tell me we roughly guess about how much it's going to weigh. And then we're good, go for it.
So let me just explain to the people that just heard us talking about pinching it off what that means. When you're using a cable choker, 1/2 inch diameter, 5/8 diameter, 3/4 inch diameter, and the nubbin, the end of the choker, slips into a bell, so it's just a beautiful slip knot. So when you pull on a choker, it's just constricting that cable down, and however hard you pull is how hard that cable is trying to cut into the top of that tree.
It will actually pull hard.
It'll just
choke more and
cut
more and
right
more.
through
Yeah,
it.
the more weight that it.
Because like just a 5/8 choker, what's 5/8 line hold? 40,000 pounds or something? You put thousands of pounds of pull on the end of a cable, and it will just cut in the same way that a piece of string would cut into a piece of ice cream. It would just cut right through. And now you're picking this tree, but you pinch the top off, but the tree's cut off, and now you got a problem.
Yeah, tree's going over.
Yeah. And the crane's going to get
wham.
Crane's going to get a little whip, and the guy that's hanging on that tree is a dead man.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. There's a lot of when we do trees, we try to stay under everything. Try to, because it's doesn't take that long to make an extra cut.
Yeah.
To save somebody.
Yeah.
We don't care about the tree, but we do care about the person.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I'm guessing there's times where you called it off because maybe you brought the wrong truck, but have you ever called it off for other reasons, like it didn't seem safe, or I don't know, weather, or maybe there wasn't enough help, or?
Not that I can remember.
This truly is just another day at the office for you.
Just another day
I can't imagine getting to that point with such a
I know we've had
sketchy job.
Had some jobs where to set up, we were in the mud.
Yeah.
But we just went back to the shop. Or if we didn't bring it with us to begin with, we went back to shop, got enough dunnage to lay down to set the
Wow.
outriggers on to take care of it.
Amazing.
So just because I'm a knothead and I have too much pride, it says that the tensile strength of 5/8 6x19 class wire rope is 41,000 pounds. And that's, I mean, that's a lot. A piece of 5/8 line, you can heave the back of a D6 up hard before that's going to break, you know.
Yeah.
But so if you put 30 or 40,000 pounds of pull on a 5/8 cross section line, it's going to cut through anything.
Especially if it spins or rotates in any way.
If it
which
rolls
is
a little bit, you know. In fact, one time my dad and I ran at the winch line around an old farmhouse that the guy wanted moved, and choked off one end, and it just went ahead and just cut that house in half with the winch line, and it just collapsed and watered up into a heap. And
I bet.
yeah,
Man, I could not one-upping that, but I watched a video about a deep sea ship recovery. No, it wasn't deep sea. This huge ship beached itself on a jetty in the middle of a very important harbor, and so they had to recover it. And they brought this boat out that basically ran a big fat cable and sawed the entire ship in half. I mean, like a class 5 or whatever the biggest class of ship is, and it had to saw for like 18 hours or some huge number.
just some sort of a loop.
And it had little tiny, like almost like chainsaw teeth kind of in it. It wasn't just a
carbide bits
cable,
or something.
but the point is, it's going to go through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
This is pretty much what we use.
What's your chart tell you?
What we use for our
We were going to ask you
lifting
about rigging.
cables.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is safe lifting strength. This is
Yes.
safe lifting load, not braking strength.
Right.
Yeah, I was talking braking strength.
Yeah, well,
okay,
that's
the
different.
difference between an
Yeah.
unreconstructed logger and a crane operator. I don't care what it breaks at. I want to know what I can lift with it.
Right.
That's cool.
That's what we go with. When it was out in the woods, we wouldn't care, you know.
Funny.
So you got chains, webbing or straps, and cables. Maybe give us kind of the overview of each one of those and how they're used in your crane lifting.
Well, we use mainly nylon slings, what we call them,
A sling.
and cable. Chains we don't use.
And why is that?
Mainly because we don't have any. Lifting chains are completely different than just a regular old chain you'd
Yeah.
wrap around something or,
Yeah.
you
Have
know.
to be proof tested, overhead work rated.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they all have to be rated out to what they can lift. And I mean, we wanted to get a set of 4-ways for a long time, but we just use cables and nylons.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And those nylon slings they're tubular, right? They're not just a flat thing.
Well, not all of them.
Okay.
The ones they use on the boom truck are flat.
Okay.
Now I do have some that are tubed.
I see.
The big crane, I've got both.
Interesting.
The round slings generally will pick a little more than the flat ones.
Uh-huh.
But then that depends on width too. So like you got the 2-inch, 3-inch,
Yeah.
up to 5. I think they go 5. I don't know if they go any further than that or not. But anyway, well, I guess I can look. They get the wider they get. You can pick more of the wider ones too. So
Oh, yeah. Man, there's a lot of information here. Sling capacities, block and fair lead loading, rigging hardware capacities, load factors and weight distribution.
yeah, it's got all the information that just about you'd need for making a lift. Yeah, the round ones usually have a bunch of nylon cord or strings is what they are that run through them. And then they got that, it's kind of like a Kevlar or nylon.
Yeah, like a sheath.
Yeah.
So
they hold up pretty good. They still cut.
Well, yeah, like with a chain or a cable, it's kind of obvious when it's wearing out or failing because you have strands you can see. And a sling kind of looks worn out after using it only a time or two because it's muddy and it can get a little frayed. Are there ways to tell when it's at the end of its life?
On the flat ones, they have a string in them, a colored string. So
Woven in.
So when you see that colored string, you're supposed to take it out of service.
Interesting.
Oh, like
I did not
It's
know that.
on the edge. Like on the flat nylons we were using.
Yeah.
What happens is they start getting wore.
Uh-huh.
The nylon starts getting wore, and pretty soon you'll see a colored string. Round ones, generally on those, it has to do with slices.
Okay.
Like in the round, if you get any cuts in that outer sheath, then you're supposed to take them out of service.
back to the idea of going to a job to see what you're up against and evaluating the reach and the distance. And I called you. I think I've bugged you a couple times and asked you to come out and look at jobs that were a little non-typical to see if you could get in there and stuff. And you're always out there, bam, the next day or sometimes the same afternoon. You look it over and you know what to do. Probably like every other business, there are people where when you see who the work order is for, you think, I better go out and get a look at this because this guy is a little too energetic or this guy underestimates his capacity. And some guys you go, oh man, I've lifted for him 80 times and he's always ready and he always has me square in my safety zone. Does your business work like that, like mine did as a general contractor?
Kind of. Most people, when they call and want something, I'll ask them some questions, like how much weight you picking, how far out you going from the edge of the building. And that'll give me an idea about what size of crane I need. If it's really tricky, then I go out and look at it. And most of the time, go out and look at its access for being able to get into the site.
So that last little job of ours that we've got you on video, you're going to want to watch that because your little boom truck looks real good, did good. That had you stretched out just about as far as that little truck wanted to work, didn't it?
Yeah, we were stretched out just about all the way on that one. Pretty close.
But we made her. It was no problem. But it was all we could reach, really.
Yeah.
The wall lifted a little bit, and it was kind of for us sort of like, oh boy. Did you even think twice about that moment, or is that just
no?
That's just kind of how it goes.
Because I've thought about that watching it. There was no disaster because you had the whole weight of the wall, and if you had just lifted it enough to pull the corners, if it would have slipped off, the crane wouldn't have cared.
Right.
You were not going to take any additional shock if the rest of those nails pulled or if it slipped off the edge because you already had it.
Already had a hold of it. Yeah.
So let's talk about signaling.
Yeah.
How many times do you get out on the job and the guy has no idea in the world how to communicate to you what he wants you to do?
Quite a few.
Quite a few.
Yep.
Does that slow you down much, or can you give them a basic crash course and then kind of translate it, at the moment?
Yeah. Yeah, we give them a crash course, the basics of what you want to do. Some guys still go like this. And, I mean, I know what they want to do.
Sure.
So
I'm gonna memorize that one.
But some.
So he had that hidden from the camera. What he said is some guys still go like this
Yeah.
for boom up, boom down.
For booming up, booming
and they
down.
probably go like this for line up and line down.
No, I haven't got too many of those. But
Do you prefer hand signals over radio? Is it just superior to just do it that way, or what's your first choice?
Radios they have their place.
Yeah.
Where you can't see, and I used to carry a set of radios in the boom truck all the time for those times when there was just one guy up on the roof and he'd have to say, well, give me the count of 5 and then start lining down, type of deal. But every time I go to use them, the batteries were dead. So.
Oh, yeah. So that right there makes my tail bushy. Give me the count of 5 and then start lining down. That's like setting chokers behind an operator who doesn't look back. He gives you the count of 5 and then goes ahead.
Oh, yeah, no.
That's
I worked behind one like that.
I did too, yeah.
Cat Skinner, he damn near ran over us several times. He got so bad out there and so many complaints against him that they took him out of the woods and put him on the chip pile.
Let him push chips where he couldn't squash anybody.
Yeah.
Man, this guy, so I was working for Little River Box, and they were on a side, and there were 3 cats running, as I remember, and I was pretty green. And they sent me over with another guy because the 2-man choker setting crew behind a brand new D6C 10K power shift, 1977, really fast then. And this Cat Skinner loved to push. He'd come in pushing, not paying attention to what the choker setters were telling him. And he short-ended a little whip against a stump and broke a choker setter's leg. Didn't even get off the cat. Didn't even get off the cat after he broke this kid's leg. Got kind of drug out of there and limped out of there, and they went down to the landing, and he just kept logging with the other guy, and they sent me over there. And, man, I really I ended up having to walk off anyway. We're not here to talk about that, but that's no good when they're not watching for you.
Oh, no. I ran downhill as fast as I could before.
Yep, same deal.
Because there wasn't no place else to go.
No place else to go.
No.
In fact, I did that running downhill, looking over my shoulder, and ran into a log sitting sideways, boom, as hard as I could go, getting away, and considered myself lucky to escape,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So choker setting, to give context, when logs are brought to the ground are the guys who run out with cables, strap them so the cat can drag them in. Is that more or less it?
Set the chokers, and then when the cat comes up, you pull the winch line off, and you hook the eyes of the chokers onto the winch line, create the turn. A turn is a set of logs, and then once the turn's hooked onto the cat, you clear out, and the cat, off he goes.
Yeah, see, we had a hook tender. So that's all he did was grab the bowl line, run down, and hook the chokers up.
Oh, I see.
Give the signal to the cat skinner. He drug him off that cat twice.
Did he?
Oh, yeah.
No kidding.
Because at one time I was actually down trying to, because sometimes you got to dig underneath the logs to get the choker underneath there.
Dig a choker hole.
And I was digging underneath the log, and all of a sudden he took off.
Oh, man.
That thing come around damn near knocked the hell out of me.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
I mean, it was...
Yeah, so my story was I backed him up this grade just as far as I could, and a D6C 10K will back up a long ways. Then I pulled the bull line up there a long ways, and that's hard. And I collected the turn, and I got it in there. And the choker that comes tight first goes on the hook last. So that tight eye holds all the other eyes on, if that makes sense. I was standing on the ends of 2 logs with the rest of the chokers between my legs, standing there with my hand on that eye, telling him to tighten it up easy. And he's backed up as far as he can. He wasn't watching. He gave me 5 seconds, took his foot off the brake, let off the decelerator. Down the hill he went while I was standing on the ends of 2 logs with the chokers between my legs, screaming like a mashed cat.
Oh, yeah.
And when he stopped, he turned around, he looked at me like, what are you doing in there? Like I was an idiot.
Yeah.
And I walked off the turn and down to the truck and told the hook tender I quit. And he said, no, don't do that. But anyway... So that's one of the reasons that I have so enjoyed working with you is because you understand production and you understand when you have to be slow and safe.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
When we did this licensing, new licenses for federal, their idea when you're operating a crane has to do with speed. And I told the one guy, I said, this is not a time contest.
There's no speed.
Oh, hang on a second. The licensing agency is encouraging speed, or that's how they're...
Right. If you're out there doing your hands-on with the crane for doing your test, you have a certain amount of time you have to be done with this test.
Oh, that's backwards.
And they're assuming that means you're familiar with the machine and like you can get the job done because you've got the experience, I guess.
Well, they give you a little bit of time to play with it before you take the test.
Wow, it just seems like totally surprising. You'd think they would be much more safety oriented, and that doesn't sound like the right.
They do that too.
There's a lot of safety involved, but they have a time limit on this, and but they based that on a high-rise stuff in it, and they have they're moving over, dropping the line down, picking something up, coming over and swinging. They're just kind of it's a little different than what we do out.
Yeah.
Going to different jobs here and there. It's not set in one spit.
So you pointed out to him that time is not a consideration in the real world.
No.
The last thing we're worried about is
Safety.
how long it takes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Make sure everybody's safe first before we start.
Yeah.
So is there a license then to operate a crane, a crane operator's certification or something like that?
You go every 3 years. I go for a refresher course, which was 4 hours.
I see.
The original test was 8 hours.
I see.
But it was just all safety. There was no on hands or nothing. It was just all safety stuff.
Yeah.
Then the feds got involved. I think it was 14. Everybody was supposed to have a federal...
like 2014, like 5 years ago?
Yeah. Everybody was supposed to have a federal license by 2014. There'd been so many crane accidents through the United States that they decided they were going to take over and try to keep it safer. But anyway, Oregon had such their safety was good.
A track record of safety in Oregon?
Yeah, they didn't have that many accidents and stuff, so the feds let them go to 17. So that's when I went up and took mine, was in 17.
And it's like it's a test where there's a crane there and they're watching you operate this crane to get it done in a certain amount of time.
Yeah, I had to do 2 of them.
Okay.
I did the boom truck because I operate a boom truck. And then I did what they called a fixed, which is or swing crane, what they call it. And that's like the big one.
Yeah.
And so I had to do a test on each one of them. And they also, if you run a lattice boom crawler, they have a test for that, operating those. But you take and move a ball through what's a big old thing.
Mm-hmm.
You move through an obstacle course. There's
Oh, I see.
2 or
Yeah.
3 obstacles, and you got to go through it without knocking the cones down.
Yeah.
And then drop it in a 55-gallon barrel.
That's a pretty decent test.
Yeah. And so, and then, like I said, it's time. So you got to get it done in a certain amount of time. And then you got all the written tests that you got to take too. So
How do they test your ability to rig and strap and secure it? Because that seems like as important as the actual joystick of the machine.
they did a little test on that. It wasn't a lot, but it was
Like part of the written or sort of like
written.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, that card you just showed me, there's lots of different rigging options just on that card.
Yeah.
You know, there's
But-
there's a ton to rigging.
The book we had was about that thick.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the tests took just about all day.
Really.
I'm trying to remember, I had 4 of them, 4 different tests or 5 different tests I had to take. I don't remember right now.
I bet that was not just another day at the office when you're driving up to do that.
No, well, see, we spent 3 days in a classroom
Oh, no kidding.
trying to learn all this stuff.
Uh-huh.
It was a 5-day course total.
Uh-huh.
And so we spent 3 8-hour days in a classroom going over all the information and OSHA's rules and ANSI's rules
Uh-huh.
and all the stuff that you would be getting tested on and different stuff about cranes and what have you. So
How do you assess that? Do you feel like it's a safer crane operating environment right now as opposed to 10 years ago? I know the work itself is just as dangerous, but do you feel like this has changed much, or how do you look at it?
I don't think it has, but I don't know how the accident rate is, if it's changed any.
It seems like there's been some big accidents just over the last couple of years even. So
Yeah, that big thing was that in Florida, but that wasn't so much the crane as just the overbridge, the bridge over the
a bridge. But there
collapse.
was another crane, and it was because they were the guys taking the crane down.
Oh, a tower crane.
Oh,
Yeah,
went
a
bad,
tower
yeah.
crane came
wall
down.
towers, yeah, they have problems with those sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think it was truly like the guys weren't communicating, and one guy took out a pin before, and the other guy didn't know he had taken it, something like that, out of sequence or something.
Yeah,
So you ever think about sitting on a tower crane? Would that just, you ever been up on one of those? What would that be like?
I don't know.
Same thing?
Yeah, it'd be a little different sitting up there.
Better
Like-
view.
Boring.
Like an old operator that used to work for us. He'd been operating cranes for years. And they sent him up to Eugene when they were building the first Sacred Heart,
Yeah.
and put him on one of those ones. And he said he grabbed his lunchbox, he crawled the ladder, went all the way to the top, got the cab, checked out all the charts and everything, see what he could do, what he couldn't do. Swung around there, picked up a unit of plywood, and he said that thing just kind of bowed like this. He swung around and he set it where they wanted it, grabbed his lunchbox, he went down the ladder.
I'm going to find a truck crane somewhere.
Yeah, he'd back on the ground. He said, the heck with that. And he'd actually operated cranes on barges, so,
No kidding.
Jeez.
but he didn't like that one.
Who would?
I like running equipment, but I prefer cranes,
Yeah.
rather than sitting on a loader.
And
all
why
day.
is that? More using your head a little more, or what is it about
Well, the biggest part of why I like it is because I go to a different place pretty much every day
it? Yeah.
when I'm working. So
Yes.
I'm not in the same place all the time.
Yeah.
And that I kind of enjoy that, because working in construction, you'd be on a job for anywhere from 3 months to a year on one job.
Yeah.
So
And sometimes that might be a really inconvenient location or far away. And
yeah,
so,
sometimes out of town.
but you're saying, and it's obvious, but every day you're on a new job site.
basically, yeah.
That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
That is
A lot
cool.
of times it's picking the same thing, but it's at a different,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat.
different part of town.
So you've done a lot of work for the sawmills around here.
Yeah.
And so when I graduated from high school and logging and construction, this was a different sawmill world then than it is now.
Yeah, I worked for Rosie.
Yeah, when Rosie was rolling,
Yeah,
when they had 80 or 90 log trucks parked out there off Diamond Lake Highway, and
yeah. Back I worked for him 1970.
Kenneth Ford, no
Yep.
kidding. Anything come to mind when you think about running a crane around a sawmill over the last 40 years? And maybe not, because they're pretty professional. Anything come to mind?
No, most of it's pretty much cut and dried.
Okay.
The only real weird one I remember was we pulled a barker out that we had actually put in there. But when we grabbed a hold of it and started taking it out, the old crane started, and this was our old 65, started coming up in the front, Well, that was when I was fairly new at running that one. So it made me a little bit nervous. But once the guys, I was talking to them on the radio, and they said, well, you've got it all now. So then
Can't get any worse.
nope, it was good. It was gone as far as it was going to go.
So you were just at the limit. You were still in
Yep.
the zone.
Oh, yeah.
And the nose of the truck just got a little light.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It started coming up
Yeah,
a little bit.
yeah.
The outriggers didn't come off the ground. So
Okay. Oh, all right. But you
was
could
no
feel it.
biggie. But you could feel it in the seat,
Yeah. So that's just it. I mean, running a cat, skinning cat, particularly running grade, you're actually running grade with the seat of your pants, right?
Yeah.
You're running grade with how it feels on your hip pockets. And so a crane's got to be about the same way. You can feel that seat begin to tip before you almost recognize anything else.
Yeah, the old one, see, like the old 65, now there's no computers.
Uh-huh.
The 120 has a computer, so
That'll tell you.
So you've got certain amount of, you can kind of tell, but you're still, even though you got a computer, you can still feel it in the seat.
Interesting.
I mean, you're used to doing everything, and even though you have a computer, they tell you this was the weird part. They said, if the crane comes with a computer, it has to have a computer. It has to work. But you cannot rely on that computer for your lift.
Interesting.
Yeah, you have to.
This is what you rely on.
You have to still do your physical measurement for your radius.
And check your chart.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
so you have a very agreeable personality. I mean, it's just you're an easy man to get along with, which is nice. Not every crane operator is, but
That's what I hear.
There has to have been a time around here when you said not only no, but hell no, we're not going to do that. Have you ever had to do that?
No, I told a guy that was yelling and screaming at me one day that I was going to pick up the outriggers and go home. I wasn't putting up with that crap.
That's about as extreme as Ron gets right there.
And he quit doing it.
Yeah.
Because I was going to still charge him. But no, pretty much, everything goes pretty fairly smooth.
Yeah. So you've worked for Jack Mathis for 40 years. Is that what we figured out? A good long time.
Since 83, I went to work for him
2000,
building
2013.
Kmart.
Yeah, that's almost 40 years. That's a
Yeah.
good long ride.
Yeah.
So that means two things. That means good hand and good boss.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was a good guy to work for.
That's pretty neat to have found a long-term relationship like that in a little town where the economy is as cyclical as Roseburg's economy has been.
Yeah. This has been really cool. Obviously, our lift, even though it was nothing for you, was pretty huge for us, and couldn't be more pleased. It was really like you were kind of a heroic, centerpiece of that whole day. So good job.
Yeah, lifting walls like that, I've had them where you start lifting them and they do one of these.
They start folding up.
They
Taco,
one
baby.
part doesn't want to come up, so you set them back down and
Yeah.
have to put some strong backs or something in them to
Yeah.
get them to come up. But
Wow.
Yeah, we scratched our head and talked about whether those picking eyes were in about the right spot, if it would
Right.
spread the load out.
The overhangs probably stiffened them up too.
Yeah, they
right?
did a lot. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly right. Those little
Yeah.
walls standing up gave that some backbone.
yeah,
Yeah, you got to swing by the house. It's looking real good, man.
Is it?
It's coming together about right.
oh good.
Well, that wasn't the first video that Ron showed up in. We put a video up a couple years ago from that porch remodel, and
Oh yeah.
and Ron's in there. And we made a video about hand signals, so I recommend the viewers check that out if you want to see the specifics of the hand signals that we use there. Anything else to add or that might be interesting for someone? There could be a guy listening to this who thinks, that's it, crane. I'm going to learn that. I'm going to get my certification. I'm going to do what it takes. How do you even start if somebody's thinking that right now?
Well, they have schools that you can go to learn how to do it. Other than that, it's you can still learn on the job.
Yeah.
Find a crane company that needs basically an apprentice.
An oiler, right? Do they
Yep,
still
an oiler,
call them that?
that's- Yep.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Explain an oiler.
Oiler is usually like on the big crane, I've got an oiler that goes with me.
He's a helper.
Yeah, he's a helper.
That's
Yeah.
an oiler, yeah.
He's not necessarily a crane operator, but he's a lot. Most
Yeah.
of them end up becoming crane operators.
Yeah, because they said they help your outriggers get set up and they get
Yep.
the chains out of the back and
And if they're hungry
Rigging.
and if they're attentive and if
Yeah.
they're watching, crane operators giving him more responsibility all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Try to do this,
Yep.
do this. You got those outrigger pads set up about right? That's good. All right, now,
Yeah.
check to see if we're level. Go in
Yeah.
and read that chart. Tell me how I'm doing, that sort of thing.
and maybe doing the hand signals if the guy's on the roof
yeah,
or
it's,
something.
you know, a little different than when I started. They said, "There's the truck. Get in it and go pick this." Okay, fine. You know,
Thanks for coming on, Ron. It was really a
bet.
pleasure, and we'll have you back. And hopefully, we won't be doing another big wall lift quite like that ever again. But you never know.
You never know.
Never know.
But I'll tell you this: if we need a crane in Douglas County, we're going to call Jack Mathis Crane, and we're going to say, "Don't send anybody but Ron Covey."
okay.